Just being in situations around people that have either been murdered or lost to the lifestyle, even through overdose and whatnot. Being around that and like being immersed in crime and being around when people are being murdered.
Right.
That was probably the most difficult because I'm friends with both sides of it, because like I was a person who would talk to anybody.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Kuda. I'm your host. My name is Kuda Mabiza. Today I'm joined by Ashley, and it is my pleasure to have her join with us. Today, Ashley, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming through today. It's awesome to have you around. We had the discussion already in the past about a lot of things that have happened in your past. And I think I'm very excited to let the world know how you've basically conquered a lot of your demons almost to be where you are right now. And I think as we speak, your life is very exciting. And of course, we will go into that in the next few minutes. But yeah, so we'll just start with that. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Langley, BC.
Okay.
And I was raised between like Langley and then a little town out in Chilliwack, which is called Yarrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's as far as that goes.
That's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. And in Chilliwack, you were living with your both parents?
Just one. I was always only living with one parent at a time.
Okay, so your mom is in Langley.
They had split custody.
Right. Okay. Tell me, who were you spending most of your time with?
Up to the elementary years, I was always with my mom. I'd go to my dad's on weekends, and then it switched because when I was in grade 5, my mom moved to Alberta, so I was with my dad full time.
Okay. And your mom moved to Alberta to remarry, or what happened?
She went to Alberta for work, but it was actually for other purposes.
Okay, but you were told for work.
Yes.
Right. And then with your dad, from what age roughly?
I was still in elementary school, so I'm thinking like 9, I think.
Okay, so 9 going up, you're raised by your dad. Mm-hmm. Excellent. And how was school for you?
Elementary school was good until I moved, and then I had to like switch and transition over like to nobody that I knew. Everybody kind of had their like groups.
Okay.
And then it was kind of difficult, but yeah. And then in middle school, I kind of just always hung out with the wrong choice of people. In
middle school?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe let me ask.
It started in elementary school, but like it transitioned over to middle school.
Right. Okay. Can I go to the question which, firstly, when did you first get introduced to substances?
First introduced, I started drinking, like I was given drinks from a very young age, and it was probably between 7 to 9.
7 to 9 years old.
Like on the weekends, my grandpa would buy us coolers.
Okay, and this is at below 10 years old?
Yes.
You're already introduced to alcohol?
Yes.
Okay. Do you drink to get intoxicated or no?
I used to.
At 10 years old?
Probably, yes.
Wow. Okay.
Because you don't know to stop, and it tastes like juice, so you just keep drinking it. Yeah.
Okay. And what's high school like?
I didn't even make it into like really high school life. Like made it to grade 10 and I dropped out.
And then you dropped out?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I was very heavy into addiction already.
Okay.
I couldn't focus. I was like getting angry at teachers. I was already in the essential classes, so it's not like I could get any much easier for myself. So I just stopped going. I was smoking crack cocaine and just would rather do that than go to school.
What age did you start smoking crack cocaine?
I think I must have been like grade 9 to grade 10, so it's either 14-ish, I think.
Yeah, 14, 15-ish.
Yeah.
And who's introducing you to crack?
It was a boyfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your dad saying about this boyfriend? Or does your dad know?
He doesn't know.
Okay.
And I was between my mom and my dad's at the time because my mom had moved back down.
Okay.
and she had an apartment with my sister. I went home after like going and doing this for the weekend, and I had like a big blister on my mouth because the boyfriend had like heated it up too much, and it burnt.
Wow.
And I had like a big water blister on my lips, and I said that I tried blowing fire through my mouth. It was like a party trick back then. So that covered that.
They bought it.
Yes.
Okay, so you are introduced to crack cocaine. This is a young age. Are you using it often, or was it something, let me just try and see?
I was using it often after that, but like beforehand, I was using like cocaine and ecstasy and stuff like daily.
Really?
Yeah, from like grade 8 to grade 10.
This is about 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you're using it daily, I'm just trying to get the understanding here. First, does dad get a hint, other than your blister, but is there any hint of my daughter is using substances?
I think at that time I was staying at my mom's apartment most of the time.
And your mom didn't get any hints?
They kind of knew that I was doing other things. Like she knew I was drinking at the time and doing ecstasy.
Okay.
Because I started fainting and like from not eating, I guess, regularly, I just started like waking up on the ground, and I don't know if I was like having seizures or if I was fainting.
That's right.
But she woke me up a few times and was like, "What are you doing? Like, are you okay?" And I was just like, told her what I was doing, and she was like, she was aware of that. That's all I would let them know I was doing, because it was more acceptable.
And it's more acceptable.
Yes.
To use cocaine.
No, yeah, cocaine and E, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In my family.
In your family, no, I get it. But fine, your family is kind of accepting it. But what are the school teachers saying at this time?
No, none of the school teachers. Like there was only one teacher that ever had talked to me, and that was my art metal teacher. And that was when I was smoking weed only. Like he just was like, "You're stoned. Do not operate the machinery in here."
You are stoned. Do not operate the machine.
Yeah, like let somebody else do this work for you today, and just don't come to class high. He smoked weed himself.
Okay.
So he saw me like down the road, and I had like these yellow rolly papers, and so he like knew right away. And then I came to class, and he's like, "You can't touch the machinery right now." That was as far as the teachers got involved. Like I did get I got expelled and was talked to because of bringing a bong to school, but that was the most. Like,
that's the most.
Yeah.
I guess the reason why I'm asking is I'm trying to understand. While one family can accept that, I'm wondering how are the teachers trying to help a youth in that moment? Because as teachers, I think it's their role and their job as well to try to help and navigate a youth's career, right? But it's interesting. So now what? Your teacher knows, your mom is kind of like okay with it. We go into grade 10, you're daily using, and it's all stimulants at this time. Okay, and you're smoking, you're not using IVs.
No, I never have.
You never have?
No.
Okay, so I think when I spoke to you in the past, you also mentioned using cocaine did help you get focused a little bit, because I'm wondering how were your grades
That wasn't
in school?
cocaine.
That wasn't cocaine?
No, that was actually like a years down the road when I was dabbling with like using opiates.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So when
for some reason those stimulated me more and made me focus more than the like other stuff.
Okay, since you brought that up, when did you start using down?
Probably when I was 16.
16 years old, you're first introduced to heroin. Okay. And then you're dabbling down now.
Yes. Like I was using uppers and downers at the time.
Uppers and downers, yeah. And I think I would like for people to understand what you mean by down helped you focus more. Can you just explain to me how your life changed slightly when...
Like when I was using heroin, normally you see like the things that people on speed, like doing, like they get more focused, they're like doing things and like able to do things and like more and have energy.
Yes, correct.
I would get energy from using down instead of like, yeah, it was like a opposite effect.
Really, eh? Yeah, that's interesting. I think I'll just like to tell people what speed is. Speed is crystal meth, right? And excuse me, you tend to see people who use crystal meth who were diagnosed with ADHD, right? So because they can't, maybe they are not covered to get medications for ADHD, they use crystal meth, and that's when they focus more. But it sounds like to you it was using heroin, which was actually helping
eventually,
you to,
eventually, because the crystal meth just stopped doing much.
So you did use crystal meth as well?
Oh yeah, I started doing that. Just like I only smoked crack for like 6 months. I'm gonna say 6 months, and then like on and off after that. But like I switched over to using crystal meth instead because it was cheaper, lasted longer, and had better effects.
Oh, really? Are you somehow self-diagnosing yourself and self-treating yourself?
I was just, I wasn't self-diagnosing myself because at the time I was just doing it to do something.
Right.
I don't really understand why I started, just more likely because of the people I was hanging around.
Okay. Okay, sorry I got caught up there. That was really interesting. So we're now going to move on to so you dropped out of high school. We're now grade 10. At this moment, you feel that I am really addicted. I am struggling with substances, or do you not feel like you're struggling?
I never felt that way until I got arrested when I was like 17.
When you were and why did you get arrested?
Or 18. I think I must have been 18. I got arrested on charges like for unlawful confinement, uttering threats, and obstruction against law.
Okay.
I never was charged with it. It was just, I was arrested for it.
Were you under the influence when you committed the crimes?
Oh, probably, but I never committed the crimes.
Oh, I see. You never did commit the crimes.
No,
Okay, good.
I never committed the crimes. It was highly suspicious is what they said, and then I got acquitted of the charges. But I did go to jail for like 3 months.
You did go to jail for 3 months.
And then I was on probation for 2 years. And I think that's when I first realized, okay, maybe I do have a substance issue.
When you're in jail for 3 months, how old were you at this time?
I was 18 because I didn't go to the youth. I went to the adult.
You went to the, oh really? Mm-hmm. Wow. Was that your first time clean?
Yes.
How are those 3 months for someone who's been using almost on a daily basis?
It was fine. Like, it was like, you have no choice. It's not like, I don't even think you could smoke in Surrey pretrial at the time. So like, I quit. Like, you have no other choice. Like, they put you on patches and stuff, but yeah, I gained some weight. I ate. They had horrible food at the time, so like there's nothing else to do but gain weight and sit there. And I tried to join programs, but wasn't there for long enough to do anything really.
Do you leave the pre-trial feeling, wow, now that I'm clean, let me see what my life can be like? Or do you leave thinking I need the first hit?
For me, I like walked out of the doors. And I kind of like, at the time, I didn't really want to leave anymore. Like, I kind of wanted to stay because, like, I was just about to get transferred over to the women's facility. Okay. And they kind of made it sound really good in there. And I was like, well, that sounds, like, really interesting. That'd be kind of cool. And maybe just the fear of going back to what I was doing, you know? So then when I got released, I was, like, super anxious. My father was not there to get me, and I was like, didn't have a phone, and was like, okay, I can't just stand here. I want to get away from this jail. Like, so I like picked up cigarette butts, which is disgusting, off the ground, and then I had no lighter. So then I'm like walking, and I got somebody to give me a lighter, and I walked to the store instantly, but like right away, we stopped at a liquor store, and I got coolers to drink because I was on my way to my grandma's after that to say hi to everybody, and I was super anxious and nervous, and so in my mind I'm like, okay, I need a drink.
Yeah.
And my father's always been okay with alcohol, so instantly, like, he picked me up coolers, and, like, the next thing you know, I was calling my old dealer.
Jeez. I think it sounds like we missed an opportunity as a society to help you, it sounds like.
When you're released, I feel like there's a big void that needs to be very reconstructed in the way that they release people. They release people that have been in there for 5 years with other meds, without verifying where they're going. Like,
Wow. Because here, I think what's intriguing to me as well is that, very good point, was you were looking forward to going to the women's center because of what it looked like it provided better opportunities.
yes.
Not because you're just comfortable in jail, but because there were opportunities for you to do stuff.
Programs, you got to do community programs, you got to get released and go work and stuff. And
Proper
I
rehabilitation.
did have that experience on the outside and stuff, but like knowing that I was going back and the people that I would be around again.
Right. So I think it sounds like a discussion could have been had. Shall we give it 2 more months before we release you?
Especially like being released on a 2-year probation and a 7 o'clock curfew and being released to the middle. Like, my father lives in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have a license at the time. Like, so like going anywhere before 7 o'clock p.m. and getting back by that time was like very hard for me. So like I was constantly breaking my curfew after that. So given the choice whether like to be released on that kind of conditions or to stay in and do programming in there, I would have probably chose to stay and do programming.
For your own good.
Yeah.
Not, wow, this is incredible. Okay, that's a learning lesson, I think. I do want to go back now to a little bit about your personal lifestyle. Did you, or do you think you were supported growing up in, now that this child is using substances, how can we help her so that she can lead a successful life? Was there efforts regarding such?
I think it has a lot to do with like how your parents are raised and what issues they have personally, because if you're working with like a parent that has addiction issues themselves and has been raised with it being okay and always around them, then I don't think you're going to get the same as if you have somebody who's raised with parents without addiction and without, first of all, being together and not being together too, because I took advantage of that fully, and that was not on them, that was totally on me. And like, even so, with saying that, like with the way that they were raised and the way that they chose to raise me, at the end of the day, like, it was my choice. Like, I can look back now, and like I used to blame a lot to them, like, and looking back now though and taking responsibility for it, like I totally worked the situation and made myself that way, like, because they gave me good examples of what not to do, like looking back at it, but I chose to run with it instead of using it as positive. I used it as a negative and made it work for me.
Wow, that is so profound. That is so powerful. You look back and realize your parents were going through their own issues.
Mm-hmm.
And their addiction issues could have been used as an example of what not to do. However, you don't put blame on that
Any longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to.
But that's what happens when you see clear, right? I mean, you've been clean now for a long time, but you do see that I could have used this opportunity to not become like ABCD.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful. I do want to ask, when your mom is not around, when she goes to Alberta for good, you're now left with your dad's side. Mm-hmm. Okay. And your dad is also, he also uses.
He's a weekend user.
He's a weekend user.
Yeah.
Right. And at that time, of course, you're seeing it as a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think you said to me once about when your dad found something in your room. Let's just talk about that, because I was asking you about what happens. For example, do parents put a lot of effort to see if my child is using substances? And if they see something, are they taking actions or they're not taking actions? What happened with your dad?
I think, well, he found Brillo, like burnt Brillo and stuff under my bed, and he knows people that have used the stuff, so obviously he knows what it's for.
What is right?
When he found that, I think the emphasis goes on like them wanting to believe so badly that their child's not doing that, you know, that they want to believe what you say to them. So like me putting it on someone else and saying, you know, like maybe you shouldn't have these people around. He's like, oh, perfect. Now I don't have to think of my daughter doing that, you know? Especially being the youngest and his only like biological daughter, I think he had a hard time actually like improvising rules for me when I'd like use that for my benefit.
Okay, I'll just repeat that. So when he found it under your bed, under a pillow?
Under my like under the mattress.
Under the
by
mattress.
Yeah.
You put the blame on someone else.
Yes.
But because you're the youngest, he loves you, your first biological daughter, he's like, she can't be.
She's not doing that.
Surely not.
Yeah.
So she's quick to believe you.
Yeah.
More than to dig down a little bit more. And then someone gets in trouble for it.
Yes.
Do you feel like, I got away with it? Or are you like, man, I feel bad for this person?
I was like, thank goodness he bought that. Because like I didn't buy it myself. Like
really,
it was just so like, why would he come through my window and hide his stuff under my bed? Incredible. You want that stuff close to you when you're using. You don't want it.
And your dad would know this, but he really wants to.
That he's never gone to that extent of it.
Okay.
But like he did a lot of blaming. Like he would always blame my mom for everything, because my mom was the one that was like unable to be a functioning.
Right.
She took it to past that limit, and then he would just always be like, "You're just like your mother," you know, like, and put it to there.
Oh man.
So, yeah, he doesn't understand the addiction part. Like he doesn't understand that, because like I know his brothers have experienced it and he's gone through it with them. He was always able to stop.
Right. Whereas your mom actually suffered the addiction itself. Mm-hmm. So in a way, you're probably more relatable to your mom, and you sympathize more, whereas he doesn't.
I don't sympathize more. Unfortunately, like I give it to my mom pretty hard. Like I'm pretty hard on my mom.
Okay.
Maybe because of that factor, and because like I think, you know, I got a lot of my addiction issues through her because of being told that all my life. But like it hasn't been until recent that I've been like trying to mellow out with her, because like I was really. I can be very harsh. Yes.
Wow. Tell me, how does the relationship of two separated parents, how does this relationship affect the child, especially if the parents don't get along? Because they're right in the middle there, right? Mm-hmm. And the worst part is there's substances involved. How is that affecting you?
They went through like battles when I was like in elementary school, and I just remember them going to court for custody and whatnot, and like my mom kind of using me against my dad. And I always had a fear instilled in me of my father when I was younger for some reason. He never harmed me or anything, but he was just very strict and like, yeah, just very strict and harsh in his ways. And so the relationship between them was strayed, and then it got a little bit better. Once I got into trouble for the first time when I was like in middle school and I got arrested for shoplifting, it kind of came together a little bit and started thinking like, okay, maybe we should like communicate, because she wasn't even at your house when she was supposed to be at your house, and she was supposed to be at mine, but she wasn't anywhere. And now this happened. So after that, they started talking to each other.
So no one is blaming anyone.
Yeah, so they just started talking to each other and like trying to figure out like, what are we going to do? This is getting out of hand kind of thing.
Right, that's what I'm trying to get to. Like if parents, it's not that they must love each other anymore, right? But it's like for the sake of the child.
There has to be communication.
There's got to be the communication.
Yeah, because there was no communication for years between them, and I used that to my benefit.
And you use that to your benefit.
Yeah.
Wow. My word. I think I'm learning more today than the first time we spoke. I do want, though, to touch a little bit on your relationship with your previous partner. And I think you mentioned how it wasn't a healthy relationship, right? Okay.
It was
So
very bad.
let's just talk about first this boyfriend. It was a boyfriend, right? Okay. First of all, how did you guys get together? How did you guys get introduced to each other?
I met him at a friend's house, and I was hanging around his family members, and he just got released from jail.
Okay.
And that's how we met. We were just at a friend's house.
Right. So you guys start dating. How long did you date for overall?
I dated him for 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years-ish. When does... Because I
From
think...
like 15 to 18.
From your 15, or from 15 to 18? Okay. How healthy or unhealthy was it? Just to walk me through the good parts and the bad parts real quickly.
There was like almost no good parts.
Okay.
I was already heavily in my addiction. I ended up dating him. It was just a really unhealthy relationship. There was lots of abuse. He'd lock me in places. He'd always be like accusing me of like sleeping with people and doing things I wasn't doing. Like he put padlocks on doors when he'd leave and I'd be stuck in the room. He physically abused me many times, like almost daily. Broke my ribs, threw a marble ashtray at my face. Bear sprayed me, like emptied a whole can in my face. Of like, that was really, that hurt.
How old is he? Or older than you?
He's older than me. I don't even know. I think he was like late 20s at the time.
Late 20s at the time, okay.
Yeah. I know he was definitely 30 when I knew him. So I'm not too sure how old he was when I started dating
Okay.
him.
I do want to, because we spoke about how does one stay in such an abusive relationship and how does one escape that abusive relationship. Give me 2 minutes. We'll just take a quick break.
Okay.
And then we can answer this question.
Okay.
Right, so welcome back. So my question before the intercession was that I just want to know, maybe I want more people to understand this. You are stuck in this abusive relationship, and what's very vital to know is how does one person stay in a relationship like that? Why does one person stay? At the same time, how do you escape that relationship?
For me, going through that, you don't really see that you're stuck in it. You always feel like you have, like, it's your choice to be with the person. You're blind to the fact that, like, eventually you're slowly cut off from any outside communication. You're cut off from your family because you just feel like a burden to them because you just constantly, choose to go back to the person. Like, I left him several times, but I'd always go back to him.
Why?
And then it's an addiction in itself. Like, it's definitely an addiction, and like through addiction and learning, like, and stopping, you need to do it for yourself. If you do it for anybody else or any outside reason, it's not going to work.
That's why you kept going back.
Yes. You always, like, and they're really good, they're good. People like that are good at manipulating you and your thoughts and, like, making you feel bad for what they're doing to you. Because, like, always at the end of the day, I felt like I deserved it. Like, you feel like you deserve it because they get into your mind and they tell you, like, that you're worthless and that you deserve this and that you did this to cause them hitting you. And, like, you don't do anything, but then eventually you believe what they're telling you and you're like, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, but you really didn't do anything. It's a tricky one. And for me to get out of it, I had to be separated from, like, it was me getting arrested. I ended up going to recovery and being separated from him for those months, and then he ended up coming to recovery, and I was like, okay, like, at that time I cared about myself more than I ever had, because I was, like, on my own, able to see that I was worth something and that I didn't deserve these things. And I said, like, I said, they told me I shouldn't have a relationship for a year, and I'm going to put 2 years on that because of everything I've been through with you. And so if you aren't willing to stay and work on yourself and be clean to have a relationship, then I don't want to have a relationship.
You said that.
And he ended up leaving like a week later, so it made things very clear for me.
Wow. So now you get the power and strength to say this because you are clean and you're in a recovery.
And they had programming there. They had like codependency, and like the girls there were very supportive, and
right.
And they actually had a great program. It was life skills, and that was really a great program to go through and like to learn about yourself and to get some self-confidence, because they make you go out and canvas places and talk to people, and without doing that and having that opportunity, I just don't think that you are able to see from another perspective yourself.
Wow. This is a recovery house, right? Mm-hmm. What age were you? How old were you?
I turned 19 in there.
Yeah, you turned 19 in there?
Yeah.
Okay. In a recovery house, do you go in a recovery house because you've been told to, or do you choose to?
I was told to by my father, but I chose to go.
Okay.
I wasn't court ordered or anything.
Okay.
I just thought, oh, perfect, I have like a curfew. Going there will make it easier, and at least I have people around, because I was like by myself and not up to any good. I was using again, and thought, okay, well, this is like do or die kind of, and I thought I'd have a week before I went, but I went the same day my dad told me that I was going, so that kind of sucked.
Yeah, that was a chess move. I think you told me about your dad. That was really, really brilliant. I do want to know, at 19 you go in there. How long are you in there for?
I stayed in there for 9 months.
9 months.
Mm-hmm. I was only supposed to stay for 3, and then I got comfortable, liked it, and then I figured I might as well wait till my probation's done.
Correct. You do relapse after that?
Yes.
After how long?
Like I started drinking, and that counts as relapse, because anything that's a substance is a substance. But I started drinking and using blow. I started drinking right away.
Okay.
As soon as I left, like while I was in there, I drank.
Wow.
On my birthday, I drank. So that wasn't that good. But for like the hard drugs and stuff, I stayed clean for probably 3 or 4 years.
Wow. And then you relapsed. Why?
Because with my family, like blow's okay in their eyes, drinking's okay in their eyes, like it's acceptable.
Okay.
Anything past that is not acceptable, and like I don't like doing blow. Like I don't like it. I never have. I just did it because it was accepted. And so eventually it's like my addict mind goes like, well, what's the big deal if I party with them but do what I want to do? Mm-hmm. But that doesn't work out eventually.
So, okay. How many times did you relapse?
I've relapsed like probably like 6 times.
You've relapsed about 6 times. And what's the longest you've gone clean?
3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I asked that is someone once said the toughest thing to do is to stay clean. Mm-hmm. To get clean is easy. It's about staying clean. So I think this probably gives someone an insight of like, well, just because I relapsed doesn't mean I'm a failure. It's about that consistent, because if you've tried it so many times and then now to be where you are today, that should give someone hope. Like, no, just because you relapse doesn't mean that you will always be an addict.
Sometimes relapse is like part of the story. Like
right.
Some people get it and they stay clean. Like I've met lots of people through meetings and stuff who have like 60 years, but they, you know, like times are changing too. Yeah. So it's like very different from when people got clean 60 years ago to getting clean now, especially with all the harm reduction and stuff, you know, like
right.
if I had that when I was using, or if I like knew about it when I was using, because it was probably around, I'm so thankful that I didn't, because in a way I agree with it, but I don't agree with it. Like, I support it, but I don't support it, because like for me, I would probably still be stuck in the streets, like, because it coddles you almost, as to where, like, when I was homeless, I had no places to go, like shelters. I slept in banks, like.
It coddles you. That's crazy.
Like, I do support the don't use alone and like the overdose prevention, but like at the same time, like, how much are we really helping people in those positions? Because like for me, if I wasn't like at my rock bottom, if I had places to go still. I don't think that I would have been motivated to quit as fast.
Wow, that's crazy, incredible to just imagine that it is as true as it can be. Now the road to recovery can be longer because you're so comfortable.
And it's so easy to go back to. Like, it's
Right.
just right in your face. Like, when I, like, growing up, I'm so happy I didn't have to walk down the streets and see people smoking dope and, like, using, because back then, like, even now in my mind, like, it's not okay. Like, you don't want to see people to see you like that. You want it to be hidden, and now it's just in the open everywhere. It's accepted.
Whoa, wow. That's because we do see it every day, right? Especially in the area where you work in. Okay, so let's move on quickly. I think you spoke about the challenges of being in addiction and the challenges of hanging around the people that are in addiction as well. Because where I'm going here is there's a lot of life of crime that comes with it, right? And you said to me you wouldn't wish it upon anyone. Tell me about the hardest parts that are so difficult that for you, you just go back and think this was difficult. What experiences do you remember?
I just remember, like, for my experiences and, like, not wanting anybody else to experience it or be exposed to it would just be, like, hanging around people. And don't get me wrong, like, I still talk to some people that I'm talking about right now, but just being in situations around people that have either been murdered or lost to the lifestyle, even through overdose and whatnot, being around that and, like, being immersed in crime and being around when people are being murdered.
Right.
That was probably the most difficult, because I'm friends with both sides of it, because, like, I was a person who would talk to anybody and, like, get along with them, as to where there are people, like, are always fighting and, like, have things against other people. So being friends with both sides of it, and then, like, losing somebody and knowing somebody who killed them is probably one of the most difficult things that I experienced in that lifestyle. But then also, it's also made me able to work in the field I do work, because, like, I can have empathy and compassion for people like that, where other people's
judgmental,
they shut down towards it, and they're like, they just judge them right away, and I don't do that.
Man, I think you made a point, and this is so tough to even comprehend, really, right? Like, it's a life of crime for sure, yeah, but you do lose loved ones, because they are your loved ones, right? They become your friends. And to know that Johnny was murdered, for example, that it's tough. How do you heal? How do you move on?
Like, for me, I turn to faith and religion, like, because there is no really moving on from that. You just have to have belief and, like, know that there's something greater than yourself and greater than anybody on this planet, and then turn yourself over to that, because otherwise I don't think there is moving past it. So
you tend to God. How's that experience? As we are slowly starting to close off here, how is that experience now that you are believing in God? You're now a person of faith.
I've always been, like, since 18.
Okay.
Like, being in the first recovery house, that's when I first got introduced to it, because I was never raised with it.
Right.
Which I really wish I was, and I'm excited now to have the choice to do that in my parenting. But for me, being able to turn to something as God, and, like, being able to just, like, release anything that I'm holding that's stressing me out or I'm worrying about, because I just don't like to do that anymore.
Wow.
Has been very impacting in my life, and it's, like, changed, and, like, me even, like, being able to stay clean. It's helped me.
No, that's great, man. I mean, it's good to hear stories like that, right? Yeah. I do want to ask one of my last two questions is, you spoke about the difference between a recovery house and a treatment center. For me, that was mind-blowing, because it's so good to hear from a person who's gone through it than a person who tries to help people to say, go to a recovery house, go to a treatment center. But you, from our perspective, we maybe don't understand the true differences. You relapsed a couple of times, went through a recovery house. Treatment center, you didn't. What is the difference?
I never went to a treatment center.
You never went to a treatment center?
No.
Okay.
I've known people who have gone to treatment centers. They're harder
Right.
to get into because they're usually privately funded.
Right.
Or, yes, they're usually privately funded. I know there's some great ones now, but they have like programming and counseling and proper staffing. As to where recovery houses are usually just like the peers eventually become monitors, and then it's just a house full of ex-addicts trying to
Help each other.
get recovered.
Yeah.
Without really knowing the proper way of showing somebody else. But it's using the 12-step because you want to give what you get away.
Right.
So it does work, but you really need to want it. Like, you have to want it, otherwise it's not going to work.
In the treatment center now, you're saying it is strengthened by the counselors that are there.
Yes, they have like properly educated people.
Okay.
Like, as to where like recovery houses may have some of that, but it's not the best. It's not. It's usually like people that have gone through the houses going out to get like a little certificate and coming back and like giving back, but it's not. You're not going to get the best as you could get.
It's good knowledge out there, right? So for someone,
you really have to do your research on the recovery houses, because some of them will say that they have things, and it will just be you going to a harm reduction house and people are using, but they're being safe about it.
Right. I see. Wow, that's good information for someone out there who's trying to help out a brother, a sister, right? So thank you so much for that information.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Actually, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time. Good to see you again, okay?
Thank
Awesome.
you.